All right, hello everyone. Let's try this one more time. Welcome and thank you for joining me for a special Chrome Chrome mobile office hours. Today I'm going to be diving into a bunch of great tools that you can use as a web developer to really build out your skill set and make yourself more productive in the things that you're doing when you're building for the mobile web. We're going to take a look at some demos, we're going to take a look at some libraries and frameworks. So with that, why don't we jump in and have a look at some slides. Today is a first part. We'll be having our second version of this next Wednesday, and we'll dive into some great testing tools and a couple of other devices and things at that time. But for today, we're going to look at sort of the development environment that's important for using when you're building great web applications, and particularly for the mobile. Really easy to go and sort of just hack stuff together with Notepad kind of equivalents. But really, we become much more productive when we have really solid tools. We'll take a look at some things that will remove some of the authoring abstractions or provide some abstractions to what we're trying to write so that we end up not having to deal with a lot of the crazy or merging stuff together and all that. Then we'll move into some of the frameworks and libraries, things that'll help make your life easier to get things done and easier to be able to handle some of the stuff that you don't enjoy doing, or somebody else has already written it, so why bother writing it again? Next week we'll take a look at performance, testing, and build optimization. If you're looking for some other stuff, there's a great place there where you can check out Paul's tooling in the web app development stack. That's a great presentation that he's got online. You can download that or go pop through those slides. These slides will be available online afterwards. And as well, if you look there, this way. See, right about there. Okay, well, maybe it's a little that way. But anyways, if you have questions as we're going along, please post them to our moderator queue, and I'll do my best to answer those questions as we move through through the day. So let's first of all take a jump into the development environment. Things that you're using to code, compile, to build and reload your pages. I have a personal favorite development environment, and that's Sublime Text 2. Sublime Text 2 makes my life really easy in terms of providing IntelliSense so that I can go in and start typing something, have it autocomplete. It does it for not just HTML and JavaScript, but if I'm writing something for maybe App Engine and using Python, or maybe I'm using Java, or whatever backend languages I want to be able to use, all of that stuff is right there, easy for me to be able to go in, get access to, run, quick and easy. In fact, let's just pop out of here for a sec, and I'm going to bring up Sublime. So this is actually the presentation that we're looking at right now. So you can see that it's got all of the IntelliSense that I'd normally be looking for, or code coloring, makes it really easy to find stuff. If I create a new file, actually I didn't want to do that. Let's say file and file new. And I'm just going to save this as an HTML file. So demo.html, save this. One of my favorite things is the snippets. So I can actually just type in HTML, and Sublime has a snippet already saved, allowing me to go in and fill these things in. It provides great tab completion between the different events. So you can go and add these yourself. You can grab others from other developers who have already created these things. So it's a great text editor. I always forget like the simple syntax on stuff, so I could type, for example, link, because I want to add a CSS style sheet in here. Done. All I did was hit tab. It completed everything, put my cursor into the right place so that I could quickly and easily be able to get in and do the things that I want. It's not for everybody, but it does save a lot of time, and it works for the PC, works for the Mac. Really easy to be able to go and use, get access to without having to go and sort of do anything too crazy. And I think if to buy it, it's about $25. So it's relatively inexpensive, really easy to go get your hands on. If we pop back to the slides and The other one that I really like is an app called CodeKit. And CodeKit, you can do this with build scripts. You could do this with something like Yeoman. I find CodeKit was really easy for me to be able to just plug into a bunch of my existing projects. But I think the developer of CodeKit calls it's like steroids for web developers. I really like to think of it as something to do all the hard work for me, something to do all the things that I don't like to do, that I don't want to have to go in and be like, oh, hey, how do I do this, or what do I need to go to do that? It'll automatically compile pretty much everything from CSS to SCSS to less, all that kind of stuff. It'll do JavaScript, it'll do inserting HTML into places. So that was a really great tool that I found worked really well. It'll also do JS hinting and JS linting, so that as I go through and work on my projects, it tells me when I do something that maybe I shouldn't be doing. So it's a quick, easy way. In fact, if I bring up CodeKit right now, you can see here, here's the CodeKit for my mobile tool belt project. There's the slide config. It doesn't import or anything, and it's not imported by anything, but I can check the syntax with JS hint, and then I can concatenate and minify any files that I need to work with. So a couple of great little things there, really easy to be able to go and work with these guys. So I really like CodeKit. I'd recommend that one. It's only available for the Mac, but I'm sure there are other equivalent ones for the PC. Or you could really, if you wanted to be, down and dirty, you could write your own build scripts to go and take care of some of this stuff. But let's dive into some of the development tools, some of the things that are worthwhile using, worthwhile getting our hands into and making great mobile websites. So one of the biggest complaints that I've often heard from developers is they often think that, oh, it's this mobile site, it's got to be ugly, it's got to be, oh, it's mobile, it's not, there's so many devices to go handle, or there's so much stuff. I just don't let the fact that people are saying, oh, it's mobile, or oh, it's enterprise, or oh, it's the web, be an excuse for ugly. Like, that's just lame, all right? Beauty sells. Like, we all know that. You go into any store, anybody who has a beautiful product, you kind of like, oh, this is pretty, I want this, right? We want beautiful stuff. So building a more lickable mobile web is really important, and something that we should spend more time on doing. There's a couple of great things that you can take a look at for this. Mobile Patterns and patterns.com are two really great sites that provide some great examples, show what other people have done, and lay things out. Let me pull one of these up right now. So this is Mobile Patterns, but you can see, like, here's some interesting ways on what this company has done to provide easy access to stuff for messaging. And one of the things I really like about this is they have different ways that I can go in and I can say, hey, I want to see what people have done for photo galleries. So I can see all sorts of different photo galleries and see what people have done to create photo galleries. So I can get some ideas and I can go and create some neat and interesting concepts. Maybe I want to go and figure out what I think a popover should look like. So, here's a big list of popovers. Patterns.com is very similar in that it's got lots of great examples. You want to get an idea what what different about boxes look like. You can go through and you can see all these just to get a good idea of, like, how should I make my stuff look, right? So it's a great place for you to go get great inspiration. But in inspiration, you still need to follow some human interface guidelines. Both Android, Apple, for iOS have a really great set of human interface guidelines. But there's one thing I really want to highlight here. It's that these are really fantastic for those specific devices. It makes perfect sense for me to follow the human interface guidelines if I'm building an app that's only going to work on this, on my Galaxy Nexus phone. But if I build something that follows the Android design patterns, and somebody goes and uses it on an iOS device or a Windows device, it's just not going to fit. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel weird. It's not going to feel right. So it's really important that we follow through on some of those different design guidelines. As well, there's some really great stuff. Apple has some stuff for designing web content for mobile Safari. And actually, for not just mobile Safari, but for Safari in general. So if you're building for web, they've got some great content there. And Microsoft even has some really great stuff around Windows Phone. So I'd recommend checking out those. But again, don't put too much effort into making your app look exactly like one particular platform, because it's going to feel unnatural on other platforms, and at some point they're probably going to change the look and feel of the platform just a little, and then all of a sudden you're going to look awkward and out of date. So you don't want to duplicate the other platforms. I tend to like to start with some of the boilerplates that are out there because I find that they're really useful. They each have different purposes in life. They each have different reasons for being and try and solve different problems. I think my two favorites are jQuery Mobile and Bootstrap. Bootstrap is the one that I tend to use most often because I find it's the most flexible, gives me the most ability to be able to do things, whether I'm building something for a mobile website, whether I'm building something for a desktop website, whether I'm building something that's responsive and works in any of those sizes. But those are really important to me to be able to have all of those. Bootstrap has fantastic responsive layout capabilities, as does jQuery Mobile. So checking out both of those, really good. But now let's jump into some of the more fun and interesting libraries. These are things that I think are really helpful, that reduce some of the pain that we feel as developers and really make our lives easier. FastClick, the guys at the Financial Times labs have been doing some phenomenal work over the last couple of years and have really built a phenomenal mobile web app, the Financial Times web app. It's just absolutely fantastic from a design and experience perspective. It works offline. It feels and acts and looks like a native app, even though it's a web app. And in fact, when you set it up and when you install it, they encourage you to add it to the home screen so that it's right there, easily accessible, easy to get access to. You've got a quick way to be able to go and use those things. But one of the things that they found was that there were a bunch of mobile web bugs, or there were things that didn't behave like native apps on the web, and they wanted to fix those. So one of the first things that they really started working on was the FastClick libraries. Excuse me, and with the FastClick libraries, the problem that they were trying to solve is that on mobile devices with touch screens, the browser says, oh, you touched the screen. Well, if you just touch the screen, do you want to drag something? Or do you want to maybe zoom? Or what are you going to do? And so because of that, it sits there and it has a 300 second delay would be pretty crazy. A 300 millisecond delay in terms of until it fires the touch event. So we want to get rid of that 300 millisecond delay because it really is awkward. In fact, let me pull up a little demo for you so that we can have a look at what's going on. So here we go. I've got my iPad up, and so I'm going to bring up this page, and here's the FastClick demo page that the Financial Times guys wrote. So this top box that you see up here, box A doesn't use FastClick, box B does. Now watch how long it takes for the box to turn green from when I touch the screen. You're going to have to sort of trust me to say touch, and it took a while. Touch, and it takes that like couple milliseconds, well 300 milliseconds from the time that I touch till the time that the event fires. Now they've solved that with a library that they call FastClick. We've enabled FastClick on this box here, B. Watch as I touch it. Touch, oh, touch, touch, touch. It's almost instantaneous. So touch, touch, touch. So by using this, you can make your buttons, your touch experience feel much more responsive. And the reason that that's happening, like I said, is that instead of looking for the touch end, they fire on the touch. Let me try that again. Instead of listening for the touch, they listen for a touch end event. When that touch end event happens and the user hasn't moved their finger from the touch start, it fires the touch event then. Using this library is really easy. It's only a couple of K. It's pretty small, and if you gzip it and include it in your library file, really easy to go add. But window.addEventListener, you listen for the load event, and then just put a new fast click on the body. And that allows you to go through, it'll go through and find all of the elements on your page that have would register a touch, so buttons and other things, and it listens for those. One thing I did find in some of my projects that I've worked on is that if you add a button after the fact, after you've run that particular fast click document body, maybe you're adding a button to the DOM or something to that effect, then you need to go and just sort of add that fast click to that particular element that gets added after the fact. So it doesn't automatically go and watch for new elements, it only adds for the elements that are already there. So it's a really great tool for being able to make your apps feel more responsive. One of the big things that I've often run into when I've been trying to debug is that you're like, there's no real console log. On the iPad and iOS devices, they had it up until iOS 6. They took it away in iOS 6. And on Chrome for Android, or even Android browser for Android, you don't have access to the debug console unless you do any kind of remote debugging. So being able to figure out, hey, what's going on in my console is a really useful thing to be able to do so that you can figure out, hey, what's going on, what's happening here, are things working, like did I get to that point, like are the values. You guys all know what console log can be used for, so I won't continue on that sort of thing. But console log, JS console is a really great tool that you add some code to your application, and what it does is it captures all of the console log events and it pushes them up to a web service so that you can watch up on that web service what's going on. So why don't we take a look at that for a sec. I'm just going to bring up my page here, and I've got a listener. So you can see here, all right, and let's go to my iPad. So you can see here I've got a listener started, and on the iPad I'm going to start my sender. So as soon as I send that, it pops up with a little dialog here. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. So the dialog is a warning that says, hey, I'm going to send everything off to another service. So like, just a word of warning, remember to remove this script before you deploy this. So go back, I'm going to click OK on this, and sure enough, you noticed a whole bunch of things went and fired off. So what I did is in my application, I actually have it go and show me what the screen width is, what the height is, what the device pixel ratio is, so that I can understand, hey, what's going on in my page. And sure enough, I've got a little loop that fires every about 2 seconds or so. Let me actually kill this so that we can see what's going on here. But you can see that I've got all of my remote console logs. So my screen available width is 768, my available height is 1004. So it gives me that insight into what's going on with my application. It gives me the idea that, hey, I can go and understand this stuff. Now, one thing to just note on this is that once you use a particular key, you can't use it again. So particularly, like if you're doing some testing, you'll use the key, and it'll say, okay, great, you've used it. You try and use it again, it's not going to let you. That's a security precaution meant to make it easier. Meant so that it's, you can't, if you do accidentally leave the library in there, you're not going to leak sensitive customer data. One thing to note in there, don't use this on anything where you might have sensitive customer data, because you are sending all of your console.logs over HTTP clear text. You're just sending them up to somebody else's service, and potentially there's people who could be listening or doing not nice things with those things. So let's jump over to Hammer.js. Because if you're building mobile web applications, you're definitely thinking about touch, because touch is just one of those really cool things that really important to be able to use. And understanding, like, okay, touch, you tap the something or something like that, that's easy. But if you want to be able to handle gestures, so maybe you want to do like drag to delete, maybe you want to drag to move something around a page, maybe you want to do whatever, anything, handling those, you could write it yourself, absolutely. But why write it yourself when someone else has already figured out all the intricacies? They've figured out all the little details on how to make things work properly, make them behave in the right way. So Hammer.js is a great library that you can use in order to simplify some of these things. So let's pop back to our demo here for a sec. And so sure enough, let's bring up Hammer.js. So here's my page with Hammer.js, and it says you can touch me. So if I scroll across, so it says dragging, and it tells me when we're also completed, so it's dragged. I can tap, so single touch. I can double tap, so you tapped me twice. I can do a pinch zoom so that you can maybe zoom something. So it gives you a full set of tools that you can quickly go in and be able to like understand how you want to add things to different elements. You can drag, like I said. So it's a really powerful library that's really only about 2K in size. So it's really easy to include, really easy to go add to your applications. And it really doesn't add a lot of work or anything like that to go add. I, a couple of weeks ago, decided I was going to add a swipe to delete gesture to one of my applications, and I found it really easy to do. I used the onDrag start to notice, actually no, I didn't use onDrag start. Let me rephrase that. I used onDrag, which it fires as you move across. So I used the onDrag event firing to change the position of my element, so that way as you dragged it across, it moved across with you. And then I used the onDrag end to check to see how far the user had dragged the event or the element. If they dragged it past sort of the 3/4 mark on their page, I said, okay, great, you want to delete this, and I deleted the element. But if they didn't drag it past that 3/4 mark, said, okay, no problem, you obviously don't want to delete this, and I set the left back to 0. I also used a little bit of CSS transition, so that way the element swung back in a nice maneuver. Worked really well, provided a really great user experience. Launcher is another great library that I like to use. It does a bunch of things and normalizes storage on the client. One of the things that I've often had a bit of a challenge with is what different index and data stores are available on the user's device, right? Well, does the device have IndexedDB? Does it have Web SQL? Does it have local storage? Does it have session storage? Which one's best? Should I use local storage? Because there's been a whole bunch of articles recently saying, hey, don't use it because it's like really, really slow. But then earlier this week, there were a couple articles that said, no, use it. Absolutely. It's really fantastic. And the only time it's slow is that very first read where it's a couple of milliseconds. Now, the one reason I would recommend not using local storage or session storage for your applications is because it's synchronous. You can make it asynchronous by wrapping it in a set timeout, but most other storage mechanisms that are available for the web, in fact, almost every other storage mechanism available for the web is asynchronous. So that means you're going to go and say, hey, get me this information, and then when you've got it, call this callback and give it this information. So by using something like Lawnchair, Lawnchair is really smart in that it goes, okay, great. So you're telling me that your preferred provider is IndexedDB, but if you don't have that, I should use a web SQL. But if I don't have that, I can use local storage. And if I don't have that, I'm going to fall back to something completely different. So it gives you a really nice fallback, an ability to specify your preferred order on which way things fall back. So that's one of the things I really like about it, in that it just gives you that real easy fallback ability. And it abstracts away all of the implementation details for each of the services. You don't have to know, oh crap, does it do this? Does it do this? How do I do this? It just works. I don't have a demo for it because it's not really the most sexy thing to go demo, like, ooh, look, I can store something. Ooh, look, I can pull it out of a database. Right? Like, really, that's one of those things that, but when you do get it to work, it's pretty awesome. And it's a good way to be able to go and grab access to some of these things. So high DPI displays is another really useful one that I think is definitely worth mentioning, and because there aren't a lot of tools out there today in terms of how to go use those, what you should do when you need to use those, or anything like that. So there isn't an easy answer today. Lots of browsers are working on things. The W3C is working on a standard, but there are a couple of options. So the first thing I want to mention is using the using media queries in order to go specify, hey, how you want your images to be produced. So in this particular case, we've got media only screen and minimum device pixel ratio of 1.5. So 1.5 being a high DPI screen or reasonably high DPI screen. Great, go use this as the image. If you're not a high DPI, it would go use something else. So there's a real easy way to be able to go do those for background images or images that are placed as background on pages. ImageSet is the second one, and it's only available in Chrome and Safari today in WebKit browsers, but I expect to see it coming in future browsers. That's the primary reason why you see it vendor prefixed there. But with ImageSet, what you can do is in your CSS, you can specify, all right, well, here's the URL to my image for one device pixel ratio devices. But for other images, where maybe it's 2x, 1.5x, whatever, you can specify which image you want it to use, so that you can say, hey, I want you to use the 1x, I want you to use the 2x. So that's something that's available today. Again, that's specified in CSS, so that's not going to work beautifully well for images that are dynamic, or images that are stored sort of as actual image tags on your page. For documents that are stored as images in your page, let me hide myself here so that we can actually see all the text here. What this would be is using the source set. With source set, you can actually specify different images for different properties. It's kind of like using the video tag, where you have a source element and you can specify different sources for different properties. Maybe you've got like different video formats or something like that. It's the same concept behind source set on the image tag. So you specify, hey, here I want, this is my high def image, this is my low def image, and what's going on from there. So quick, easy way to be able to go and use those things. For best practices on this, there's a lot of things that a lot of people are trying these days. The number one thing that I would call out is say that image replacement, so using some of the JavaScript libraries that people are used to using to go and do image replacement, is generally frowned upon. It's a performance hit. You start downloading one image and then you go and replace it, so you end up downloading more. It's just generally not the best practice. Instead, using vector images and CSS styles for maybe gradients or wherever you can specify if you need to put images in your page, Boris Smoos, one of the guys on the Chrome DevRel team, has a great article on HTML5 Rocks that he compared taking a high DPI image and compressing it a lot versus a single size, or versus a high DPI image that wasn't compressed a lot, and compared the file size, and actually found that it's to our advantage as web developers to use high DPI images and use a higher compression ratio. They more often than not tend to be smaller in byte size, but also end up being as high quality or beyond perception in terms of the degradation in quality that you're going to see if you take a 1x image and you make it twice as big. As well, using some of the font icons or icon fonts like Font Awesome and other stuff. There's a couple other things I just want to point out for today. This and this are two very different things, right? So if you think about your mouse or a touch point on a mobile device, they're very different in size, and depending on how you look at some of these things, it becomes a bit of a challenge. Let's just pop over to the demo for a sec. When I first made this page, if you look at some of the text here, I had just text links as ways to get over to different places. But I found that it was too small to click on. So instead, I decided that for this particular case, it would be better to use buttons because they're easier to click on, they're larger, and for my mouse, or for my finger, much easier thing to be able to go use. Avoid tables, relative positioning, absolute positioning, floats. Headers and footers, use position fixed so that it goes up at the very top. And if you want to do scrolling inside an element, set the overflow to scroll so that it goes to the right place. And if you want the inertial scrolling, like the stuff that you're used to when you scroll through on a native app, you can add this WebKit overflow scrolling touch. And I believe this also works on Chrome mobile as well, in that it provides a really nice scrolling experience. So I have a couple favors to ask of you guys, and if you have questions, please be sure to post them in our in the moderator. The link's down there at the bottom. But my big request is help support your local open device labs. We need more of these. There are so many devices out there that people are using, and to be able to and need to test your devices across that plethora of different devices around the world, we need more people to help support them. So if there's not one in your community, start an open device lab or find somebody who can. If you have older or unused devices, donate those to your local device labs. Here in New York, there's one in Brooklyn. Hopefully we can get one started here in Manhattan sometime soon. But donating your devices to these labs so that they can have more devices to test on, so that when you need to go and test your app on a particular screen or a particular device, that device is available to you. You can go get it. You don't have to go and figure out, crap, where can I do this? How can I test this? You have a great set of devices that you can use. Finally, we need your help. Don't accept the status quo. Don't accept that the mobile web, it's okay for it to look crappy. It's in our hands as web developers to make it look better. If you find bugs with Chrome for Android or Chrome for iOS, go to new.mcrbug.com and tell us about it. Let us know. If there are things that bug you about Chrome for iOS or Chrome for Android, go see if there's already a bug there and star that bug. We look at those stars to know how many people this is affecting and how many people are really passionate about this. Build some mobile Chrome experiments. There aren't a lot of them there today, but this is your opportunity to go build something cool that's just neat, that works amazingly well on the mobile web, on mobile devices, whether that's a tablet, whether that's a phone, and submit them to m.chromeexperiments.com. Start an open device lab in your area, like I mentioned. But the mobile web really is what you make of it. As developers, it's our responsibility to build beautiful. We can build crappy, but that's not fun and nobody's going to enjoy that. Building beautiful, it really is up to us. So with that, I want to thank you guys very much. I'll open it up to a couple of questions now and see what you guys are thinking and go from there. So one of the questions that I saw earlier on our YouTube comments was somebody wanted to know, oh, hey, you know, I don't have a Mac. Can I still do some of this mobile web development in terms of using CodeKit, using some of the other stuff? You can't use CodeKit, unfortunately, because it is a Mac specific, but Sublime you can absolutely use. It's available for Mac, Windows, and PC. You can get equivalent apps. I don't know if, I don't think I've seen any personally that are equivalent to CodeKit, but I'm sure somebody's got one somewhere. So I'd check that out. All right. So I think that's about all the time we have for today. I want to say thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you had learned something interesting. Next week we're going to be diving into testing on mobile devices. So this is a really interesting piece, because how do you do remote debugging on a mobile device? How do you do debugging when you're trying to figure out how does this work? So we'll try and take a look at how to remote debug on iOS, on an Android, Chrome for Android, as well. Potentially, if we have time, we'll try and look at Firefox and Opera. All of those guys have mobile remote debugging available, so we'll try and take a look at some of those. And we'll dive into some emulators and other things that you can do to really take your device and mobile web development to the next level. So with that, I want to say thank you very much. Hope everybody has a wonderful day. And thanks for joining me.